If you let me, I will conquer her." The words hung in the air of the 60th floor corner office like a grenade with the pin pulled. Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies, froze mid-gesture. Her hand, which had been reaching to dismiss yet another expensive failure, hovered somewhere between command and complete disbelief. Around her obsidian conference table sat 5 matchmakers, men and women who charged $50,000 just to take a meeting. All of them now stared at the man standing in the doorway, their expensive expertise momentarily forgotten. He wore a gray industrial uniform with the name Marcus stitched in faded red thread above the breast pocket. His hands were calloused and honest, the kind that came from real work. He held a worn leather portfolio that looked forgotten in his grip. This was a janitor, and he had just interrupted the most humiliating meeting of Victoria Ashford's life. Victoria's voice came out sharp as a scalpel, controlled despite her rage. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?" Marcus Chen stepped fully into the room. At 34, grief had aged him beyond his years, etching lines around his eyes that spoke of long nights and longer losses. But those eyes, brown and steady, met Victoria's without a hint of fear or deference. "I said, if you let me, I will conquer her. Your daughter, Scarlett." The lead matchmaker, a woman named Constance, let out a laugh like breaking crystal. "You? You are going to conquer Scarlett Ashford? The girl who made a senator's son cry? Who's destroyed 47 carefully vetted suitors in just 2 years?" Another matchmaker jumped in, voice dripping with disbelief. 47 men, and you clean toilets. She exposed the Yale legacy kid as a fraud. She recorded the venture capitalist's son using slurs. She even hacked the young ambassador's phone and leaked everything. Marcus didn't react to their mockery. He simply turned back to Victoria, speaking directly to her as if the others had vanished. "Ms. Ashford, I overheard your meeting just now. I heard you say you're out of options, that you're afraid your daughter will spend her entire life alone." Victoria's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath her carefully maintained composure. The truth of it stung. Marcus continued, his voice surprisingly gentle for a man who'd just made such an audacious claim. "I know something about walls, the kind people build around themselves. I know what it's like to construct them so thick you forget what sunlight feels like on your skin." Constance stood abruptly, gathering her designer briefcase with sharp, efficient movements. "This is absurd, Victoria. Scarlett needs intensive psychiatric intervention, not—" She looked Marcus up and down with undisguised disdain. "Whatever this is supposed to be." "Wait!" Victoria's voice cracked through the room like a whip, stopping everyone mid-motion. They froze, understanding the tone of absolute authority. "Everyone out," Victoria said quietly, though the command was unmistakable. "Except you." She pointed at Marcus with a steady finger. The matchmakers filed out in affronted silence, their expensive shoes clicking against marble like retreating soldiers. The door clicked shut with the finality of a coffin lid, and suddenly the vast office felt impossibly small. Victoria circled her desk slowly, deliberately putting glass and steel between herself and this janitor who just upended her carefully planned meeting. "You have 60 seconds to convince me you're not completely insane." Marcus didn't approach or try to close the distance between them. He just stood there, hands at his sides, and told her the simple truth. "I'm not insane, Ms. Ashford. I'm a widower. My wife, Sarah, died 3 years ago from brain cancer. She was 31 years old." His hands curled briefly into fists before relaxing again, a physical manifestation of pain he'd learned to carry. "I have an 8-year-old daughter named Emma. For 3 years now, I've watched her build the exact same walls your daughter has built." Victoria's breath caught in her throat, the unexpected parallel hitting harder than any business pitch ever had. Marcus pressed on, his voice gaining strength. "The difference is that Emma is only 8. She can still unlearn the fear if I help her. But your daughter is 18, graduating high school. This is her last chance, Ms. Ashford. After this, those walls become permanent. They become who she is instead of just what she's built for protection. And you think you can save her? Victoria's skepticism was evident, but there was something else underneath it now. Hope, maybe. Or desperation. No, Marcus said, shaking his head firmly. I don't think I can save her because she doesn't need saving. I think I can show her she's not broken in the first place. You see, everyone who's tried to help Scarlett has treated her like a problem that needs solving, like an equation that just needs the right formula. But she's not a problem. She's a brilliant, terrified young woman who watched her father lie for years, who learned the hard way that men will promise you anything and then shatter you without a second thought. Victoria's hands trembled slightly against the cold glass of her desk, the only sign that his words were landing exactly where they needed to. She's destroying these men because she's looking for one who won't crumble under scrutiny, Marcus explained, his insight cutting through years of expensive therapy and consultation. She's searching for someone who won't lie, someone real. And every single polished man you've sent her way has failed because they were all performing. They were playing a role. And you're not performing? Victoria's question hung between challenge and genuine curiosity. I'm a 34-year-old janitor with a PhD I never finished, and a daughter who still has nightmares about losing her mother. I have nothing to perform with, Ms. Ashford. All I have left is the truth. Victoria walked slowly to the floor-to-ceiling window, where San Francisco sprawled beneath her like a conquered kingdom. She'd built all of this through sheer will and intelligence, had climbed higher than anyone thought possible. But she couldn't build a simple bridge to her own daughter. Why? She asked the glass, her reflection staring back with the same question. What do you actually want from this? Honestly? Marcus took a breath. When Sarah died, Stanford offered me 6 months of leave. But Emma needed me forever, not just 6 months. So I left academia completely. I haven't been able to get back in since. No university wants to hire a professor with a 3-year gap in his resume, no matter how good his research was. So this is transactional. Victoria's voice hardened slightly, more comfortable with this familiar territory. Yes, it is. I need a reference, a recommendation strong enough to get me back into academia. I won't lie to you about my motivations, Ms. Ashford. Victoria turned slowly from the window, and for the first time in years, found herself genuinely disarmed by someone's honesty. In her world, everyone wanted something, but no one ever admitted it this directly. 90 days, she said abruptly, making the decision as she spoke. 3 months. If Scarlett chooses you, and I mean genuinely chooses you without coercion or manipulation, I'll write a recommendation that will get you into any university in the country. I'll fund your research personally. And if I fail, you're fired immediately. And I'll make sure you never work in tech or academia again. Her voice was steel, the CEO fully present now. I can be very thorough when someone crosses me. Marcus studied her for a long moment, weighing the stakes. I have conditions, too. Victoria raised an eyebrow, surprised. People didn't usually negotiate with her. First, she never finds out about this arrangement from you. If it comes out, we deal with it then, but it won't be because you told her. Second, I do this my way, no interference. No matchmakers, no consultants, no coaching. Third, and this is non-negotiable. If at any point I believe I'm actually hurting her emotionally, I walk away immediately. Her well-being supersedes our entire deal. Victoria studied him with new respect, seeing something she hadn't expected. You actually care about this, about her. I have a daughter, Marcus said simply. If I can help one young woman learn to trust again, maybe the world becomes slightly less terrible for Emma too. Maybe she'll see that not every story ends in loss. Victoria extended her hand across the desk. 90 days, Mr. Chen. He crossed the distance and shook it firmly. 90 days, Ms. Ashford. As Marcus turned to leave, Victoria called out one more time, unable to help herself. Why are you really doing this? Marcus paused at the door, his hand on the handle. Because my daughter asked me yesterday if I was going to be alone forever. And I realized something in that moment. I don't want her growing up thinking that love only brings pain and loss. Someone needs to show her a different story is possible. He left, closing the door quietly behind him. Victoria stood alone in her corner office, 59 floors above the city she'd conquered, and whispered to her reflection in the darkening glass, "Please, please let this work." 2 miles away, in a converted guest house behind the main Ashford mansion, Scarlett Ashford was in the process of destroying someone's life. Her fingers flew across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. 3 monitors surrounded her like a command center, each displaying different streams of information. Code on one, chat logs on another, and surveillance footage on the third, acquired through methods that constituted several felonies. But Scarlett had stopped caring about legal boundaries a long time ago. The target today was Brandon Kavanaugh, Harvard graduate and son of a federal judge. He was her mother's latest promising young man, delivered with the same hopeful desperation as all the others. Scarlett had agreed to coffee with him yesterday, and she'd known within 30 seconds that he was like all the rest. The same rehearsed charm, the same calculated interest, the same hollow performance. But she'd learned that watching them reveal themselves was the only entertainment she had left in this game. She pulled up his email account now, having cracked his password in under 10 minutes. People were so predictable with their security. She found the thread with his college roommate almost immediately, and her expression didn't change as she read it. She'd stopped being surprised a long time ago. The conversation was exactly what she'd expected. Brandon had messaged his roommate Tyler about taking her out, asking for luck. Tyler had immediately brought up the real attraction, her mother's $8 billion fortune. Brandon's response confirmed everything Scarlett had suspected. He admitted that was obviously why he'd agreed to the date, calling her a long-term investment. His plan was simple: date her for a year, propose, lock it down. Even if they divorced eventually, he'd be set for life. Tyler had asked what would happen if she turned out to be as difficult as people said. Brandon's answer was calculated and cold. He said the other guys just weren't strategic enough. You had to play the long game, he'd written. Pretend to be the good guy because, in his words, feminist types ate that act up. He figured it would take about 6 months before she'd be introducing him to her mother. Scarlett's hands stilled on the keyboard for just a moment. She should have felt satisfied, vindicated even. Another one exposed, another liar revealed for exactly what he was. Instead, she just felt tired. 47 men she'd systematically destroyed over 2 years, 47 liars exposed and discarded. And somewhere along the way, she'd started to wonder if passing her tests was even possible anymore, or if she'd designed a game that no one could win. Her phone buzzed on the desk beside her. A text from her mother. "Dinner tonight? We need to talk." Scarlett deleted it without responding, the way she'd deleted dozens of similar messages over the past months. Talking to her mother only led to more promising young men and more disappointed lectures about Scarlett's impossible standards. She took a screenshot of Brandon's conversation with his roommate. Tomorrow she'd send it to him with a simple message. "Thanks for the coffee. Your investment didn't pan out." Then he'd become number 48. 48 confirmations that her father's betrayal wasn't some terrible anomaly, but rather the baseline norm for men. Scarlett closed her laptop and walked to the window of her guest house. The main mansion loomed beyond the carefully manicured garden, lit up like a museum after hours. Her mother was probably still there, working as always. Victoria Ashford never stopped working, never stopped building her empire. It was easier than building a relationship with her daughter. 48 down, Scarlett whispered to her reflection in the dark glass. How many more until I stop expecting something different? The answer to that question was waiting 2 miles away in a modest studio apartment, making macaroni and cheese for an 8-year-old who still believed in fairy tales. The answer wore a janitor's uniform and had nothing left to lose. The collision that would change everything happened on a Thursday afternoon at a Starbucks 3 blocks from the Ashford mansion. Marcus had chosen the location with deliberate care, the way a chess player considers every move. Scarlett came to this particular Starbucks every Tuesday and Thursday at exactly 3 p.m. He'd observed the pattern for 2 weeks before making his approach. She always took the corner seat with her back to the wall, always facing the door like someone expecting an ambush. She always ordered a grande americano with an extra shot. And she always had her laptop open, fingers moving with fierce intensity across the keys. Marcus strongly suspected she was destroying someone during those sessions. Today he positioned himself 2 tables away with a paperback open in front of him. The Road by Cormac McCarthy, deliberately chosen. When Scarlett walked in at precisely 3 p.m., he saw her immediately. She wore black Lululemon leggings and an oversized Stanford hoodie that probably cost more than his weekly paycheck. Her dark hair was pulled back in what looked like a careless bun, but had probably taken 15 minutes to achieve. She wore no makeup and didn't need any. She had her mother's striking bone structure but her father's eyes, those distinctive blue-gray storm clouds that could cut right through you. She ordered without looking at the barista and moved to her corner seat, without glancing at anyone else in the coffee shop. To the casual observer, she seemed absorbed in her own world. But Marcus had learned to read people during his years as a professor, and he could see the hypervigilance in every movement. She was aware of everything and everyone. Marcus waited exactly 20 minutes, long enough to seem natural. Then he stood, tucked his book under his arm, and walked to her table with carefully casual confidence. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Scarlett didn't even look up from her screen. "Yes. By all the empty chairs you walked past to get here." Marcus smiled despite himself. Sharp and direct, just as he'd expected. "Fair point. I apologize." He turned to leave, taking 2 steps away. "Wait." He paused and turned back slowly. Scarlett looked up now, her eyes narrowing as she assessed him with the intensity of someone conducting a background check in real time. Worn jeans, not designer. Faded Stanford t-shirt that had actually been worn to Stanford, not bought at a tourist shop. Calloused hands that showed real work. Running sneakers that were 2 years old and had actually been used for running. "You're either genuinely polite," she said slowly, "or you're running an incredibly subtle game here." "Option 3, Marcus replied without hesitation. "I'm tired, I'd like to sit down, and that happens to be the only table with decent light for reading. There are 4 other tables with identical lighting conditions." Marcus laughed, a genuine sound. "You're absolutely right." "Okay, the truth? You looked interesting. I took a shot at conversation. You said no. So now I'm leaving, because that's how consent works." He started walking away again. "What are you reading?" Marcus turned back, letting a small smile show. "The Road, Cormac McCarthy." "Post-apocalyptic misery porn," Scarlett said flatly. "You've read it then?" "I read everything. And yes, I found it emotionally manipulative." "That's an interesting take," Marcus said, stepping slightly closer but not presuming to sit. "I always thought he was asking a more fundamental question. If everything beautiful in the world is destroyed, if all meaning is stripped away, is there any reason to keep going?" "And the answer is the boy," Scarlett finished, something flickering in her expression. "The father keeps going because love supersedes logic, because care for another person matters even when nothing else does." "Exactly," Marcus said, genuinely pleased she'd understood the core of it. They stared at each other for a moment, and Marcus saw surprise cross Scarlett's face. Surprise that he hadn't contradicted her or tried to one-up her interpretation. "You can sit," she said finally. "But I'm working on something, so don't expect continuous conversation." "I'm reading," Marcus said, settling into the chair across from her. That works perfectly for me. For 20 minutes, neither of them spoke. Marcus read his book, though he was acutely aware of Scarlett's presence across the small table. She typed rapidly, occasionally pausing to read something on her screen, her expression carefully neutral in that way that meant she was feeling everything. Then her laptop pinged with an incoming message. Scarlett stiffened immediately, her face going carefully blank in a way that suggested bad news. "You okay?" Marcus asked, keeping his tone casual. "I'm fine." She was definitely not fine. Everything about her body language screamed distress. "Okay." Marcus returned to his book, not pushing. The silence stretched between them. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, suspended as if she couldn't decide what to type. After a long moment, she spoke without looking up. "Why do people lie about the important things?" Marcus looked up from his book and considered the question seriously. Fear, maybe. Ego. The belief that they deserve to get away with it because they're somehow special or exempt from normal rules. "Do you lie?" She asked it like a trap. "Yes," Marcus said immediately. She blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. "About what?" "Small things. Like when Emma, my daughter, shows me a drawing and asks if it looks good. I say yes, even when it looks like a deformed giraffe having an existential crisis. Those kinds of lies." Despite herself, Scarlett's mouth twitched toward a smile. "What about big things? Do you lie about those?" "I try very hard not to," Marcus said honestly. "Big lies metastasize. They eat you from the inside out until there's nothing real left." He paused, then added, "My wife made me promise something before she died. She said, 'Don't lie to Emma about what's coming. She deserves the truth, even if it's terrible. Especially if it's terrible.'" Scarlett's expression shifted, something in her defenses cracking slightly. "Your wife died?" "3 years ago. Brain cancer." "I'm sorry." The words came out softer than her usual tone. "How old was your daughter when it happened?" 5 years old. She's 8 now." Scarlett closed her laptop completely, giving him her full attention for the first time. "That must have been impossible to go through." "It was impossible," Marcus agreed. "But we did it anyway, because the alternative was worse. We could either face it together honestly, or I could lie to her, and we'd face it alone." He met Scarlett's eyes directly. "She asks me sometimes if I'm lonely. I tell her the truth. Yes, I am. But being alone is better than being with someone who lies." "Is that really true?" Scarlett challenged. "Or is it just the lie we tell ourselves to feel better about being alone?" "Maybe it's both," Marcus admitted. A genuine smile ghosted across Scarlett's face, barely there but real. "You're either the most honest person I've ever met, or you're the most talented liar. Time will tell which one." "What's your name?" "Marcus. Marcus Chen. Scarlett Ashford." "I know," Marcus said simply. "Your mother owns the building where I work." Her eyes narrowed immediately, suspicion flooding back. "How did you—" "Her photo is in the lobby with a plaque. You look like her. Same bone structure. Same presence." He kept his voice neutral, factual. "Lucky me," Scarlett said, and the bitterness in those 2 words could have stripped paint off the walls. Marcus glanced at his watch. "I need to go. Pickup time." "For your daughter?" "Yeah. Emma gets out of school at 3:45. I'm never late to that." "You're really just leaving? You're not going to ask for my number?" "Why would I?" Marcus stood, gathering his book. "I don't have a right to your number just because we shared a table for half an hour. If you want to see me again, I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday at the same time. You know where to find me." "You're assuming I'll come back?" "I'm giving you a choice," Marcus said, and his voice was gentle but firm. "Novel concept, right?" He left without looking back. Scarlett sat alone at the table, staring at the empty chair across from her. 47 men had pursued her, had begged for her attention and her number. Not a single one had ever just walked away and given her the power to choose. She opened her laptop and immediately searched his name, unable to help herself. Marcus Chen, PhD candidate, Stanford University. Published paper in 2018, The Ethics of Emotional AI. Listed as assistant professor, then abruptly left in 2019. No explanation given in any public record. After that date, nothing. A complete ghost in the academic world. She dug deeper, accessing databases that would absolutely get her arrested if anyone found out. She found his wife's death record within minutes. Sarah Chen, neuroscientist, deceased March 15, 2019. She found their daughter's birth certificate. Emma Chen, born April 2016. Current employment: night custodial staff, Ashford Technologies. The pieces clicked together in her mind like a puzzle she hadn't known she was solving. Brilliant professor with a groundbreaking career ahead of him. Wife's terminal diagnosis. A young daughter. The impossible choice between career advancement and family care. He'd chosen family. He'd walked away from everything else to be there. Something cracked in Scarlett's chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. "Who the hell are you, Marcus Chen?" she whispered to her laptop screen. She already knew she'd be back on Thursday to find out. Thursday arrived wrapped in San Francisco fog, the kind that made the whole city feel like it existed inside a cloud. Marcus was already seated at his usual table when Scarlett walked in at exactly 3 p.m. He had a different book today, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, chosen just as deliberately as the last one. She ordered her usual grande Americano with an extra shot, but this time she walked directly to his table without any pretense of coincidence. "Is that seat available?" Marcus looked up, and there was genuine warmth in his eyes when he saw her. "For you. Always." "I researched you," Scarlett said, sitting down without waiting for further invitation. "You were at Stanford, assistant professor with a promising career. You were doing groundbreaking work on AI ethics, the kind of research that gets cited for decades. Then you just disappeared from academia completely. Your wife got sick, and you quit everything to take care of her and your daughter." "Yes," Marcus said simply, not trying to deflect or minimize it. "Why would you do that? Why throw everything away?" "Because she was dying, Emma was only 5 years old, and Stanford doesn't give year-long sabbaticals for family medical emergencies. They gave me 6 months. She needed a year, maybe more. Emma needed me indefinitely." "But you lost everything you'd worked for," Scarlett pressed, trying to understand the logic of such a choice. "I didn't lose everything," Marcus corrected gently. "I lost my career, that's true. But I had 6 months with Sarah where I was actually present, not distracted by work or resentful about missed opportunities. I had time where Emma could wake up from nightmares, and I was there, not absent at some conference. I lost my career, yes, but I kept my family intact for as long as that was possible." "Most people would have hired professional care," Scarlett said. "They would have continued working, told themselves they were doing it for their family." "Most people are cowards," Marcus said flatly, and there was real anger in his voice now. "They choose the option that protects their ego and their resume. They say, 'I worked so hard for my family,' while asking, 'Where were you when your kid was terrified and needed you?' I didn't want to be that person." The words hit Scarlett like a physical blow. Her father had said almost exactly that during the divorce proceedings. "I worked so hard to provide for this family," he'd claimed, as if money could substitute for presence. "You're angry at them," Scarlett observed, "at the people who make that choice." "I'm angry at a culture that tells men their only value is their paycheck," Marcus said with barely controlled intensity. "That tells them being a provider means being absent. My wife died knowing I chose her over everything else. Emma knows, even now, that I chose her. That matters more than any career achievement ever could." Scarlett found herself smiling despite the heavy topic. "You're not what I expected at all." "What did you expect?" "Someone who wanted something from me. Everyone wants something." I want conversation with someone who isn't 8 years old and obsessed with unicorns, Marcus said, and there was humor in his voice now. I want this, whatever this is. That's all. And that's really all you want? Scarlett's skepticism was evident. That's all, Marcus confirmed. A comfortable silence settled between them, the kind that shouldn't exist between two people who just met, but somehow did anyway. What are you working on? Marcus asked after a moment, nodding toward her closed laptop. Exposing someone, Scarlett said with stark honesty. My mother sets me up with men constantly thinking she's helping. I do extensive background checks on each one. I find what they're hiding, and I destroy them before they can hurt me. It's become almost routine at this point. Marcus didn't look shocked or judgmental. How many so far? 47. Jesus, Marcus breathed. Has it worked? Do you actually feel safer now? The question caught her completely off guard. No one had ever asked that before. They'd called her paranoid, damaged, impossible. But no one had asked if her system was actually achieving its goal. No, Scarlett whispered, the admission painful. I feel lonelier than ever. Every single exposure confirms what my father told me during the divorce. What did he tell you? That I'd end up alone. That I was too smart, too difficult, too much. He said no man would ever put up with me long term. Her voice cracked slightly. And he's been right so far. No one has passed the test. Not a single person. Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious. Maybe you're testing for the wrong thing. What do you mean? You're testing for perfection, for someone without flaws or hidden motives. But perfect people don't exist, Scarlett. You should be testing for honesty about imperfection instead. That's a meaningless distinction, Scarlett said dismissively. No, it's everything, Marcus insisted. A man who pretends to be perfect is a liar by definition. A man who admits he's deeply flawed but actively trying to be better? That's someone you can actually build something real with. So what's your darkness then, Marcus? Scarlett challenged. What's your deep flaw? He didn't hesitate even for a second. I resent my dead wife sometimes. The confession hung in the air between them like something tangible and shocking. What? Scarlett breathed. I love her. I miss her every single day. But sometimes I'm furiously angry that she died, Marcus said, his voice steady but pained. I'm angry she left me alone to raise Emma without help. I'm angry that I became the sad widower people pity at school events. Then I hate myself for being angry because she didn't choose to get cancer. She didn't choose to die and leave us. He looked directly at Scarlett. That's my darkness. I'm angry at a dead woman who I loved more than anything, and I'm disgusted with myself for feeling that way. Tears pricked at Scarlett's eyes before she could stop them. Why would you tell me that? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Because you asked for the truth. And pretending I'm some noble widower who only has beautiful memories is a lie. I'm messy and angry and confused, but I don't run away from those feelings because running away is exactly how you become the kind of man I despise. Scarlett wiped her eyes quickly, trying to maintain some composure. You're either manipulatively clever beyond anything I've encountered, or you're actually real. Time will tell, Marcus said with a slight smile. Stop saying that. Stop testing me like I'm your dissertation research. Scarlett laughed, actually laughed, and the sound surprised them both. Marcus checked his watch. I have to go get Emma from school. Can I come with you? The words came out before Scarlett had fully thought them through. He blinked in genuine surprise. To school pickup? Yes. I want to see who you are when you're not trying to pass some test. I want to see you being a father. Why would you want to see that? Because my father was never there for anything that mattered, Scarlett said quietly. And I want to see what it actually looks like when a father shows up. Marcus studied her face for a long moment. Okay, but fair warning. Emma has absolutely no filter. She'll ask uncomfortable questions and she won't understand why they're uncomfortable. Good, Scarlett said. I prefer honesty, even from 8-year-olds. They drove to John Muir Elementary School in Marcus's 2014 Honda Civic, and the experience was oddly disorienting for Scarlett. She'd never been in a car that wasn't a Mercedes or similar luxury vehicle. The worn seats and slightly rattling dashboard felt more real than anything she'd experienced in months. She doesn't know anything about you, Marcus said as he drove. If Emma asks about who you are, what should I tell her? The truth, Scarlett said immediately. Tell her I'm someone you met at a coffee shop. They arrived just as the final bell rang, releasing a flood of children into the afternoon. Marcus stood slightly apart from the other parents, not quite fitting into their world of couples and carpools and casual conversations about weekend plans. Then Emma burst through the school doors like a small tornado of energy and joy. "Daddy!" Marcus crouched down just in time to catch her as she launched herself at him with complete trust that he'd be there. Scarlett felt something twist painfully in her chest as she watched them. She couldn't remember ever hugging her mother like that, with such unself-conscious love. "Hey, Firefly," Marcus said, using what was clearly a long-time nickname. "How was school today?" "We learned about fractions and they're literally the worst thing ever invented. But I got 100% on my spelling test. And can we please get ice cream?" "Maybe," Marcus said with a laugh. "Hey, Em, I want you to meet my friend Scarlett." Emma turned her huge brown eyes on Scarlett and gasped with the dramatic flair only an 8-year-old could achieve. "You're so pretty! Like a Disney princess." "Thank you," Scarlett said, genuinely touched. "You're very pretty, too." "I know," Emma said with complete confidence. "Daddy says I look just like my mom." Then, with the terrible bluntness that only children possess, she asked, "Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" "Emma," Marcus started, his face reddening. "No," Scarlett said quickly, smiling at the girl. "We're just friends." "But do you want to be his girlfriend?" Emma pressed. "Because Daddy never brings friends to school pickup. Never ever." Marcus's face had gone fully red now. "Okay, that's enough interrogation for one day. Let's go." They walked to the car with Emma chattering continuously, somehow managing to hold both of their hands as she bounced between them. The casual trust of this child taking her hand like it was the most natural thing in the world made Scarlett's throat feel tight with unnamed emotion. "Can Scarlett come to the park with us?" Emma asked as they reached the car. "That's completely up to her," Marcus said, looking at Scarlett with a question in his eyes. Emma turned her pleading gaze on Scarlett. "Please? We go every Thursday and it's really fun." Scarlett thought about her empty guest house, about another evening alone with her laptop destroying people. "Sure," she heard herself say. "I don't have other plans." "Yay!" Emma's excitement was infectious and completely genuine. The park was small and worn, the playground equipment showing years of use. It was aggressively normal in a way that felt foreign to Scarlett. She'd spent her childhood in private clubs with pristine facilities, never in a public park like this one. Emma ran immediately to the swings, and Marcus pushed her with patient, practiced rhythm. When Emma jumped off at the peak of her swing and scraped her knee on the landing, Marcus was there before Scarlett even registered what had happened. He didn't panic or overreact, just efficiently handled the situation. A Band-Aid appeared from his pocket like magic. He cleaned the scrape with a baby wipe, applied the bandage with practiced ease. "There you go. Good as new, Firefly." "It still hurts, though," Emma said, her lower lip trembling slightly. "I know it does," Marcus said gently. "Pain doesn't disappear just because we cover it up, but it gets better with time. You just have to be patient with it." Emma nodded seriously, absorbing this lesson, and then the pain was apparently forgotten as she ran off to try the monkey bars. Scarlett walked over to where Marcus stood watching his daughter. "You're really good at this." "At what, specifically?" "Being present. Actually being there in the moment." Scarlett's voice was quiet. My father would have had his assistant handle the Band-Aid situation. I'm sorry you experienced that, Marcus said simply. Don't be sorry for him, Scarlett said. Just be proof that men like him aren't the only option available. They sat together on a weathered park bench, watching Emma play with intense focus on the monkey bars. The afternoon sun filtered through the fog, creating soft light. Can I ask you something personal? Scarlett said after a while. Always. Are you lonely? Yes, Marcus said without hesitation. But I'm also terrified of not being lonely anymore. Why would you be afraid of that? Because the last time I let someone into my life completely, she died, Marcus said quietly. If I let someone new in and I lose them too, if Emma gets attached to someone and they leave, it feels safer to just be alone. Is safe better than happy, though? Scarlett asked. I honestly don't know, Marcus admitted. Is it? I've been choosing safe for 2 years now, Scarlett said. I'm not happy. I'm just defended against everything. Defended against what, specifically? Against being like my mother. Against loving someone who lies and uses me. Against becoming the kind of woman who puts her daughter second to everything else. The words came out in a rush. Marcus turned to look at her directly. You're not your mother, Scarlett. How can you possibly know that? Because your mother hired expensive experts to fix you, Marcus said gently. But you're sitting in a public park trying to understand an 8-year-old's world. Those aren't the actions of someone who puts themselves first. Emma ran up to them, breathless and beaming. I made it all the way across the monkey bars without falling. Did you see? I saw, Marcus said warmly. You're getting so much stronger. Emma climbed up onto the bench between them, leaning comfortably against Marcus. Then, as naturally as breathing, she reached out and took Scarlett's hand. Are you sad about something? Emma asked, tilting her head. Maybe a little, Scarlett admitted. Why do you ask? Because you have sad eyes. Like Daddy's eyes after Mommy died. She squeezed Scarlett's hand gently. But Daddy says it gets better. Pain gets better if you're patient with it. Remember? Tears spilled down Scarlett's face before she could stop them. It's totally okay to cry, Emma said with the seriousness of someone much older. Daddy cries sometimes too. He thinks I don't know, but I do. Marcus's face went carefully neutral, caught between embarrassment and something deeper. Your dad is very brave, Scarlett managed to say through her tears. I know he is, Emma agreed matter-of-factly. The bravest person in the whole world. Except maybe you're brave too. Me? Why would you think I'm brave? Because you're here even though you're sad inside. That's what brave means. Doing things even when they're hard. Scarlett looked at Marcus over Emma's head, and something passed between them in that moment. Something that felt like the beginning of something inevitable and terrifying and real. After another hour of playing, Marcus drove them back toward the mansion. Emma had fallen asleep in the back seat, worn out from the excitement. Drop me at the corner, Scarlett said quietly, not wanting to explain to her mother yet. I understand, Marcus said. He pulled over a full block from the mansion gates. The fog had rolled in thick now, turning the streetlights into soft halos of light in the gray. Thank you, Scarlett said, unbuckling her seatbelt but not moving to leave yet. For letting me come today. Thank you for wanting to, Marcus said. Emma really liked you. That's rare for her with new people. I liked her too. She's real in a way most people aren't. Completely, painfully real. She hasn't learned to hide yet, Marcus said softly. I hope she never does. Scarlett sat for another moment, then asked the question that had been building all afternoon. Marcus, earlier when you said I should test for honesty about imperfection, what does that actually look like in practice? It looks like someone who admits when they're wrong instead of deflecting, Marcus said thoughtfully. Someone who says, I don't know, instead of making something up. Someone who shows you their mess and trusts you not to weaponize it against them later. Have you passed? Scarlett asked quietly. Your own test? You told me you systematically destroy people. You cried in front of my daughter. You're showing me your mess right now. Marcus met her eyes. Yeah, you've passed. Have I passed yours? I don't have a test, Scarlett. I just have a question I ask myself. Do I want to keep seeing this person? And the answer very clearly is yes. I want to keep seeing you too, Scarlett said, the admission feeling dangerous and necessary. Even though I'm just a janitor with a kid and a dead wife? Especially because of all that, Scarlett said. You're the first person in 2 years who didn't want something from me. That's a pretty low bar for entertainment, Marcus said with a slight smile. Scarlett laughed and then, acting on pure impulse, leaned across the console to kiss his cheek. It was quick, chaste, terrified. See you Tuesday, she said, and then she was gone, disappearing into the fog before he could respond. In the back seat, Emma's eyes opened, and she was grinning like the Cheshire Cat. You were supposed to be asleep, Marcus said, catching her expression in the rearview mirror. Nope, I was pretend sleeping, Emma said triumphantly. She kissed you. On the cheek. That doesn't mean anything significant. It means everything, Emma insisted. I have so many questions. When's the wedding? Emma Chen, you are 8 years old. You need to calm down immediately. But Marcus was smiling as he said it. For the first time in 3 years, going home didn't feel quite so empty. 3 weeks passed in a blur of Tuesday and Thursday afternoons at Starbucks. They talked about everything and nothing. Philosophy and parenting strategies. Politics and personal failures. Scarlett showed Marcus code she was writing. A sophisticated program designed to identify patterns of emotional manipulation in text messages and emails. Marcus explained his abandoned PhD research on whether artificial intelligence could truly understand human suffering, or if it could only mimic understanding. They didn't explicitly talk about the fact that they were falling for each other. That felt too dangerous to name out loud, too fragile to examine directly. But Victoria Ashford noticed. She noticed everything. She was working late one Thursday evening when she happened to look out her office window and saw her daughter walking through the Ashford Technologies lobby. Scarlett was heading somewhere with purpose, and there was something different about her. Her shoulders weren't as tight. Her expression wasn't as guarded. Victoria watched as Scarlett's face completely transformed when she saw someone across the street. It was like watching ice melt in fast forward. Marcus Chen, getting off the city bus in his work uniform. Victoria continued watching as they met on the corner. She observed how Scarlett's entire body language changed in his presence. Her shoulders relaxed. Her smile became genuine instead of performative. She looked happy in a way Victoria hadn't seen in years. It was working. Against all odds, the janitor was actually conquering her daughter's defenses. But Victoria's satisfaction died quickly when James Sterling appeared in her doorway. He was 48 with carefully maintained silver hair, and he'd been angling for her position since the day she'd made the mistake of promoting him to CFO. Victoria, do you have a moment? His tone was falsely concerned, which immediately put her on alert. Make it quick, James. He walked into her office and dropped a manila folder on her desk with theatrical precision. You need to see this immediately. Victoria opened it, and her stomach dropped. Inside were photographs clearly taken with a telephoto lens. Scarlett and Marcus at Starbucks, deep in conversation. At the park with Emma, the three of them looking like a family. Walking through the Sunset District hand in hand like any normal couple. Your daughter is dating the janitor, Sterling said, his voice dripping with false concern. It's already all over the tech gossip blogs. Ashford heiress slumming it is the kindest headline. The board has serious questions about this situation. Scarlett is 18 years old, Victoria said, her voice turning to ice. She can date whoever she wants. Can she, though? Sterling leaned forward, playing his role perfectly. The optics are deeply problematic, Victoria. Either your daughter is having some kind of breakdown, or someone is strategically using her to get to you and your company. Marcus isn't using her, Victoria said firmly. How can you possibly know that? Maybe he's after a scandal he can sell to the media. Maybe he wants inside information about Ashford Technologies. Or maybe he's just a very patient gold digger with a long-term plan. Sterling's expression became sharper. The board wants an official statement. They want to know if having your daughter publicly involved with custodial staff is appropriate for the family image we're trying to project. Since when does the board care about my personal family life? Victoria's anger was rising. Since it started affecting stock price, Sterling said smoothly. Investors are asking questions. They're wondering if there's instability in leadership, if your personal life is becoming a distraction from running a multi-billion-dollar company. Victoria stood, using her full height to intimidate. My personal life is absolutely not your concern, James. Actually, it is my concern, Sterling said, and there was something triumphant in his voice now. Your contract includes a morality clause. Any conduct that reflects negatively on the company can be grounds for removal from your position. His smile was sharp as a knife. I'm not threatening you, Victoria. I'm trying to protect you. End this situation before it becomes a real problem. After Sterling left, Victoria sat alone in her office with the photographs spread across her desk like tarot cards predicting disaster. She stared at them for a long time, then made a decision she knew she might regret. She called Marcus. We need to talk. Right now. They met at a wine bar in North Beach, chosen because it was far from anywhere either of them would normally go. Marcus arrived still wearing his work uniform, drawing uncomfortable stares from the well-dressed clientele. Victoria was already seated at a corner table, a glass of wine sitting untouched in front of her. He sat down across from her. What's wrong? Victoria pushed the folder across the table without preamble. This is what's wrong. Marcus opened it, and his stomach dropped as he saw the photographs. They were invasive, taken from hidden angles with expensive telephoto lenses. Scarlett's face was clear in every single shot, showing her smiling, laughing, genuinely happy. The board knows about you two, Victoria said flatly. Sterling brought these photos to me today. They want answers. They want to know if you're using my daughter for some kind of scheme. I'm not, Marcus said firmly. Then what is this? Victoria gestured at the photographs. This wasn't our deal, Marcus. 90 days of discreet encounters to help her learn to trust again. This looks like an actual relationship. It is a relationship, Marcus said, and the admission hung between them. You were supposed to make her feel safe and valued, Victoria said, her voice rising. You weren't supposed to actually fall for her. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive, Marcus argued. Yes, they absolutely are. Victoria's control was slipping. If you actually care about her, you've introduced variables I can't control or predict. People get hurt when emotions get involved. People get hurt either way, Marcus said quietly. At least this way, the feelings between us are real. Are they real? Victoria challenged. Or is this just Stockholm Syndrome? You're non-threatening and present, which is novel for her. But that doesn't make it love. That just makes it convenience and novelty. Marcus felt anger spike hot in his chest. You hired me specifically because I sacrificed everything for my family. Because I understood walls and pain and what it takes to break through them. Now you're saying those exact qualities are just manipulation tactics? I'm saying I know my daughter better than you do, Victoria said. She's vulnerable right now. She desperately wants to believe someone is different. And you are different, I'll grant you that. But different doesn't automatically mean right for her. What do you want me to do? Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice level. Stick to the original plan, Victoria said. 90 days total. You have 43 days left. At the end of that period, you tell her the complete truth. All of it. That I hired you initially. That there was a deal between us. That your first meeting was orchestrated, not coincidence. That will destroy her, Marcus said, his voice hollow. It will destroy her much worse if she finds out from someone else, Victoria countered. Sterling is actively looking for ammunition to use against me. If he discovers this arrangement before we control the narrative, it won't just hurt Scarlett emotionally. It'll hurt you, Emma, and my entire company. She's starting to actually trust me, Marcus said desperately. I know she is, Victoria said, and her voice softened slightly. And if you tell her now that you were hired, that there was a financial arrangement, she'll never trust anyone again for the rest of her life. And if I don't tell her and she finds out anyway, it'll be infinitely worse, Marcus argued. Victoria's expression was almost pitying. I know you genuinely care about her, but this situation has an expiration date built into it. The only question is whether you end it honestly on your own terms, or whether you let it end in complete disaster. Marcus pushed the folder back across the table. What about what Scarlett actually wants? Doesn't she get a say in her own life? Scarlett wants fairy tales, Victoria said sadly. That doesn't make them real or sustainable. Maybe fairy tales are real when both people believe in them hard enough, Marcus said. Victoria looked at him with genuine pity. You're a good man, Marcus, which is exactly why this is going to break your heart. The explosion came on a Monday morning without warning. Scarlett woke to 17 missed calls and a text from someone she barely knew. Don't go online. Call me immediately. Naturally, she went online immediately. The tech gossip headline was brutal. Desperate CEO pays janitor $50K month to date daughter. Scarlett's hands started shaking as she read. The article showed doctored bank records depicting monthly transfers from Victoria to Marcus. It painted Marcus as a calculating con artist, Victoria as a manipulative control freak, and Scarlett as pathetic and desperate. The comments section was somehow even worse than the article. Imagine being so unlovable that your mother has to literally pay someone to date you. That janitor is playing the long game brilliantly. He's going to be set for life. Something inside Scarlett shattered completely. All the trust she'd been carefully, painfully learning to build again. It had all been a lie from the very beginning. A transaction. A business arrangement where she was the product being sold. She drove to Marcus's apartment, breaking every speed limit, her vision blurred with tears of rage and betrayal. She pounded on his door with both fists until he opened it, his eyes going wide when he saw her face. Scarlett! Is it true? She demanded, her voice shaking. Did my mother pay you to date me? Marcus went pale. Behind him, Emma appeared in her pajamas, clearly just waking up. Emma, go to your room right now, Marcus said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Emma fled, and Marcus stepped into the hallway, closing the door behind him to give them privacy. Scarlett, please let me explain. Yes or no, she screamed. Marcus closed his eyes, and in that moment she knew. Yes, at first, but... Scarlett slapped him hard across the face. The crack of it echoed in the hallway. Marcus didn't move, didn't try to defend himself. How much? Scarlett's voice broke. What was I worth to you? She didn't pay money, Marcus said quietly. She offered a letter of recommendation, a way back into academia, 90 days. If I could help you learn to trust again, I'd get my career back. So I was a project, Scarlett said, and she was screaming again now. A problem to solve. A broken toy you could fix for a prize at the end. No, that's not... Yes, Scarlett interrupted. My mother turned me into a transaction, and you accepted. You sat across from me at that coffee shop and lied for weeks. I didn't lie about my feelings, Marcus said desperately. The deal was real at first, yes, but what I feel for you now is completely real. When? Scarlett demanded. When did it become real? How long did you fake it? How am I supposed to know the difference? Scarlett, please. All those perfectly calibrated conversations, she said bitterly. Most men are cowards. I resent my dead wife. Perfectly designed confessions meant to make me feel special and seen. Her laugh was harsh and broken. You're not different from the others at all. You're just a better liar than they were. I'm not lying to you now, Marcus said, his voice breaking. I love you. The words hung in the air between them, devastating in their timing. Scarlett stared at him, and her expression was pure pain. You don't get to say that. You don't get to tell me you love me after admitting you were hired to do this. That's not love. That's just guilt. It's not guilt. How can I ever know? Scarlett's voice cracked completely. How can I know if anything between us was real? If you actually love me? Or just what I represent? A success story for your resume? A letter of recommendation? Marcus reached for her instinctively. She jerked away like his touch burned. Don't you dare touch me. Scarlett, please, just listen. I don't need to listen. I already know this story, Scarlett said, wiping her face roughly. You had an agenda. You lied by omission. And I fell for it like a complete idiot. She turned toward the stairs. Congratulations, Marcus. You conquered me. You win. She started walking away. The financial documents are fake, Marcus called after her desperately. Someone's setting us up, trying to destroy both of us. I don't care, Scarlett said without turning around. Real payments, fake payments, it doesn't matter. You made a deal with my mother. You lied to me. And I fell for it. She paused at the stairwell door. I tested 47 men over 2 years, and every single one failed. But you passed every test I threw at you. You made me actually believe. That makes you the cruelest one of all. She left without looking back. Marcus slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, burying his face in his hands. He could hear his own breathing, ragged and uneven. Behind him, the apartment door opened quietly. Emma stood there with tears streaming down her face. She'd heard everything despite his attempts to protect her. Daddy? Her voice was so small. Did you lie to Scarlett? Yes, Firefly, Marcus said, unable to look at her. I did. Why would you do that? Because I thought I could help her, and because I wanted something for myself, and because I'm not as good a person as you think I am. Emma sat down beside him on the hallway floor, putting her head on his shoulder in silent comfort. Are you going to fix it? I don't know if I can fix this, Marcus admitted. You have to try, Emma said with the absolute certainty of childhood. You told me that running away is how you become the kind of man you despise. Remember? Marcus looked at his 8-year-old daughter, somehow wise beyond her years because life had forced her to be. She was absolutely right. You're right, he said, pulling her close. I have to at least try to fix this. How are you going to do it? I don't know yet, Firefly, but I'll figure something out. Victoria Ashford was having the worst day of her professional life, which was saying something given her career. The leaked documents had triggered an SEC inquiry. An emergency board meeting had been called. Sterling was circling like a shark that smelled blood in the water. Her phone rang. Marcus. I'm coming to your office right now, he said without preamble. I'm bringing proof. Proof of what exactly? That you didn't pay me a single dollar. That the documents are complete forgeries. That someone is actively trying to destroy both of us. How could you possibly? Because Scarlett just left my apartment, Marcus interrupted. In her rage, she said something revealing. She said, real payments, fake payments, it doesn't matter. She already knew they were fake before I told her. Someone showed her fabricated evidence before the article even published. Victoria's mind raced, pieces clicking together. Sterling! It has to be him, Marcus agreed. Who else benefits directly from you looking unstable and distracted? Who gains the most if the board removes you? But how would he even know about our original arrangement? The matchmakers, Marcus said. That first meeting in your office. How many people were on the calendar invite? Victoria's blood ran cold as she pulled up her calendar history. Sterling was copied on it. He saw the meeting title. He put the pieces together and fabricated evidence, Marcus said. Can you prove the documents are fake? I can prove I never made those payments, but we need to prove Sterling actually created the forgeries. Then we'd better move fast, Marcus said. Your board meeting is in less than 2 hours. Scarlett sat alone in her guest house, laptop open, doing what she did best. Destroying people through information. But this time, the target was different. This time, she was going after the man who'd leaked the story, who'd tried to weaponize her pain. She hacked into Tech Gossip's email system in less than 10 minutes. Their security was laughably bad for a technology publication. She found the relevant correspondence almost immediately, and what she saw made her blood run cold. It was an email from Sterling to a journalist named Wade Chen. The subject line read "Story of the Year," and the message was damning. Sterling had written that he was attaching financial documents showing Victoria Ashford paying a janitor $50,000 per month to date her daughter. He called it the desperate CEO loses control story of the decade. The email continued with Sterling's conditions: run the story prominently, and he'd provide 3 more major scoops from inside Ashford Technologies over the next quarter. His only requirement was that his identity as the source remain completely anonymous. The message ended with specific instructions. This goes live Monday morning at 6 a.m. sharp. Scarlett stared at the screen, her anger shifting targets entirely. Sterling had leaked it. But why would he do this? She pulled up Ashford Technologies' corporate structure and started digging deeper. Within 30 minutes, she'd uncovered a web of shell corporations. Sterling had been quietly acquiring shares for months through carefully hidden proxies. He now controlled nearly 30% of the company. The picture became horrifyingly clear. If the board removed Victoria for instability and poor judgment, Sterling would be positioned to replace her as CEO. Then he could sell the entire company for massive personal profit. Scarlett's fingers flew across the keyboard, downloading everything she could find. Emails between Sterling and the journalist, documents showing the shell corporations, the fake financial records with metadata clearly showing they'd been created just last week, not months ago as the article claimed. She had him. She had everything needed to destroy him completely. But using this evidence meant facing her mother. It meant facing Marcus. It meant admitting that she'd been so busy destroying them in her mind that she'd completely missed the real enemy. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. Board meeting in 90 minutes. Sterling is making his move. If you have any evidence at all, I need it now. Scarlett stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct she'd developed over 2 years screamed at her to let them all burn, to walk away and let the consequences fall where they would. But then she thought about Emma, 8-year-old Emma with her completely open heart, who'd said, "It's okay to cry," and held her hand in the park. Emma who would watch her father lose everything because Scarlett was too angry to act. She thought about Marcus's face when he'd said, "I love you," the devastation in his expression that had looked like truth, even wrapped in lies. She thought about her mother, who'd made a terrible decision born from desperation, not malice, who'd been trying, however badly, to help. Scarlett made her choice. She packaged all the evidence into an encrypted file and sent it to her mother's private email. Then she got dressed carefully, choosing a tailored blazer, dark jeans, and her mother's pearl earrings. Armor for battle. She drove to Ashford Technologies, breaking several more speed limits. Time to stop destroying people and start protecting them instead. The boardroom was specifically designed to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. A massive black walnut table. 10 board members arranged like a tribunal ready to pass judgment. James Sterling stood at the head of the table with his presentation already loaded on the screen. Victoria sat isolated at the opposite end, looking smaller than Scarlett had ever seen her. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sterling began, his voice perfectly calibrated with false regret, "we have a serious crisis of leadership. Victoria Ashford has allowed her personal life to severely compromise her professional judgment." His first slide appeared, the invasive photographs of Scarlett and Marcus together. Her daughter is involved with custodial staff, which alone raises questions. But it gets significantly worse. Next slide. The forged financial documents, looking completely authentic. Victoria has been secretly paying this man $50,000 per month to date her daughter. She's essentially hiring emotional companionship for her child, using what may be company resources. Gasps rippled around the table. Several board members looked genuinely shocked. Surely there must be some reasonable explanation. Patricia, an elderly board member, began. "There is an explanation," Sterling interrupted smoothly. "Victoria's obsession with controlling her daughter's life has completely blinded her to basic ethics. She's using company resources and connections for personal drama. The SEC is already investigating, and this could expose us to serious liability." "Those documents are completely fabricated," Victoria said, her voice ice-cold but steady. "Then where did they originate?" Sterling asked with feigned confusion. "They were leaked by someone inside the company who felt morally obligated to expose this misconduct." "Someone like you, James?" Victoria's accusation hung in the air. The room went completely silent. "I understand you're under tremendous stress, Victoria," Sterling said with practiced sympathy, "but paranoid accusations won't help your case here." The boardroom door opened suddenly. Marcus walked in, still wearing his janitor's uniform. Behind him came Scarlett, carrying her laptop like a weapon. The board erupted in confused voices, talking over each other. "What is the meaning of this?" Patricia demanded. "This is a closed session." "Those are the people at the center of this scandal," Sterling said, recovering quickly. "They absolutely shouldn't be present for this discussion." "Actually," Scarlett said, her voice cutting through the chaos like a blade, "we're exactly the people who should be here. Because we have evidence that changes everything." She walked directly to the presentation screen, unplugged Sterling's laptop without asking permission, and connected her own. Her fingers moved with practiced speed. The screen filled with email correspondence. "This is communication between James Sterling and Wade Chen at Tech Gossip, dated last Thursday," Scarlett explained clearly. "Sterling leaked the story himself. He provided the fabricated financial documents. He orchestrated this entire scandal deliberately." Sterling's face went pale, but he tried to maintain composure. "That's completely absurd." "I hacked Tech Gossip's email server," Scarlett interrupted. "It took me about 20 minutes. Their security is embarrassingly inadequate." She clicked to the next screen. "Here's the metadata on those leaked documents everyone is so concerned about. They were created 6 days ago on a computer registered to Sterling's home IP address." "You can't just hack into—" Sterling started. "I can, and I did," Scarlett said flatly. "Want to press charges against me? We can discuss my methods right after we discuss your fraud and corporate espionage." She clicked again. "Here are shell corporations Sterling has been using to acquire Ashford Technologies shares for the past 8 months. He now controls 28% of this company." Another click brought up more damning evidence. His plan was straightforward. Create a public scandal, get Victoria removed for instability, take over as CEO himself, then immediately sell Ashford Technologies to Quantum Dynamics for $300 million in personal profit. She pulled up a final screen showing email chains with Sterling's name clearly visible at the top, actively negotiating terms with Quantum's acquisition team. The silence in the room was absolute and devastating. Marcus stepped forward, his voice calm and clear. "For the record and for complete transparency, Victoria never paid me a single dollar. She offered to write a letter of recommendation for academic positions. The deal was simple: help her daughter learn to trust people again and I'd get a reference that could restart my career. No money exchanged hands. Nothing illegal occurred. Except the lying, Scarlett said quietly, looking directly at Marcus. The manipulation. The betrayal of trust. Marcus met her eyes without flinching. Except that. You're absolutely right. I lied by omission. I treated you like a problem to solve instead of a person to know. And I'm sorry, Scarlett. I'm so deeply sorry. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke, Scarlett said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know it doesn't, Marcus said, but it's all I have to offer right now. Scarlett looked away, unable to hold his gaze any longer. Patricia cleared her throat, breaking the painful moment. Mr. Sterling, do you have anything to say in your defense? Sterling stood frozen, his carefully constructed composure cracking like thin ice. He looked from the screen to the board members to Victoria, clearly calculating his options and finding them all terrible. I want my lawyer, he finally said. You're going to need several lawyers, Patricia said crisply. She turned to Victoria, her expression apologetic. Ms. Ashford, on behalf of this board, I sincerely apologize. We should have investigated these claims thoroughly before calling this meeting. Mr. Sterling will be terminated immediately, and will be pursuing both criminal and civil charges. Security guards appeared in the doorway as if summoned by invisible signal. As they escorted Sterling out of the boardroom, he looked back with pure hatred burning in his eyes. Your daughter just admitted to felony hacking on the record in front of witnesses. I'll destroy you both in court. Try it, Scarlett said calmly. I have 12 complete backup copies of all this evidence distributed across 5 countries with dead man switches. Come after us legally, and every dirty secret you have gets released simultaneously to the SEC, FBI, and Wall Street Journal. Sterling was physically dragged out, still threatening as the doors closed behind him. The board meeting dissolved into chaos as members started talking urgently amongst themselves. Patricia gavelled for order repeatedly. This meeting is officially adjourned. Victoria, you have this board's complete confidence. The rest of this situation, she gestured vaguely at the family drama that had just unfolded, is none of our business and entirely yours to resolve. The board members filed out quickly, clearly relieved to escape the uncomfortable personal dynamics. That left Victoria, Marcus, and Scarlett alone in the vast boardroom. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. Scarlett, I need to, Victoria began. Don't, Scarlett cut her off sharply. I saved your company today. That doesn't mean I forgive you for what you did. I know, Victoria said quietly. But thank you anyway. I didn't do it for you, Scarlett said. I did it because Sterling was objectively worse than you, and because Emma doesn't deserve to watch her father lose everything again for trying to help someone. Marcus took a tentative step toward Scarlett. Can we talk? Please. Just the two of us. I don't know what's left to say, Scarlett said, but she didn't move away. Everything. There's everything left to say. Scarlett looked at her mother, who nodded and left the boardroom quietly, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Marcus and Scarlett stood at opposite ends of the long table, an expanse of polished wood and broken trust between them. You lied to me, Scarlett said, her voice steady but pained. From the very first moment we met. I omitted the truth about how I came to be in that specific coffee shop at that specific time, Marcus said carefully. But I never lied about who I actually am. My wife, my daughter, my past, everything I told you about my life was completely real. How am I supposed to know where real ends and performance begins? Scarlett asked, the question genuine despite her anger. Because I'm telling you everything now, with no more omissions, Marcus said. No more deals with your mother. No more hidden agendas. Just me, asking you to listen for a few minutes. Scarlett crossed her arms defensively but nodded. Fine. Talk. 3 years ago, I watched my wife die slowly, Marcus began. Toward the end, She didn't remember who I was most of the time, but she had occasional moments of clarity, and in one of those moments, she made me promise something important. He moved slightly closer, closing some of the distance between them. She said, "Don't let this experience break you completely. Don't let loving me and losing me make you afraid to ever love again. Because Emma is watching everything you do, and if you teach her that love only brings pain and loss, you'll have failed her worse than cancer failed me." Scarlett's eyes glistened, but she didn't interrupt. "For 3 years, I kept that promise by staying completely alone," Marcus continued. "Then your mother made an offer, and I took it because it felt safe. 90 days, clear parameters, defined outcome. I could help someone without risking anything real for myself." "And then what happened?" Scarlett asked quietly. "Then I actually met you," Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. "And you were nothing like I expected. You weren't broken or damaged. You were brilliant and terrified and so incredibly brave." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "You tested me constantly, and I found myself desperately wanting to pass. Not for the deal with your mother anymore, because passing your tests meant I might actually be worth something again as a person." "You should have told me the truth," Scarlett said. "I know I should have," Marcus agreed. "I was a coward. Every day that passed made it harder to confess. Every moment you trusted me more made the idea of confession more terrifying." "Because you knew I'd leave," Scarlett said. "Because I knew it would hurt you deeply," Marcus corrected. "And I'd rather hurt myself than hurt you." Scarlett shook her head bitterly. "That's exactly what my father said during the divorce. I didn't tell you about the affair because I didn't want to hurt you. Lies wrapped up in claims of protection." "You're completely right," Marcus said. "I'm sorry." "Stop apologizing and just tell me the truth," Scarlett demanded. "Did you mean it? When you said you love me?" Marcus met her eyes directly. "Yes, I meant every word. How am I supposed to believe you now?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted. "But I'll spend as long as it takes proving it to you." Scarlett walked slowly around the table, closing the distance between them step by careful step. When she was close enough to touch him, she stopped. "I'm not making this easy for you," she said firmly. "I won't say all is forgiven, and pretend this betrayal didn't happen." "I don't want easy," Marcus said. "I want real." "Real means I don't trust you anymore," Scarlett said. "Real means you have to earn that trust back completely from zero." "Okay," Marcus agreed without hesitation. "Real means no more secrets ever. About anything," Scarlett continued. "Even if the truth is terrible or embarrassing." "Agreed." "And real means Emma comes first in your life, always," Scarlett added. "I won't compete with an 8-year-old for your attention." "Emma already likes you more than she likes most people," Marcus said with a slight smile. "But yes, absolutely agreed." Scarlett reached up and touched his face gently, searching his expression for any hint of deception. "I still love you. I hate that I do, but I do." Marcus's eyes closed at her touch. "I love you too. But love isn't enough by itself," Scarlett said. "Love without trust is just pain with a pretty name attached to it." "So what do we do now?" Marcus asked, opening his eyes. "We start over," Scarlett said. "Properly this time. No deals with my mother, no secret agendas. Just you and me figuring out if this can actually survive complete honesty." "What does starting over look like in practical terms?" "It looks like you asking me on a real date," Scarlett said. "For real this time, with no hidden agenda, and me deciding whether to say yes." Marcus took a deep breath, his hands visibly shaking as he gathered his courage. "Scarlett Ashford, would you go to dinner with me this Friday? Somewhere inexpensive, because I'm actually broke. Somewhere that Emma can come too, because I genuinely can't afford a babysitter. Somewhere real." Scarlett studied his face carefully, looking for any hint of the lie. She found only fear and hope, and desperate, painful honesty. "Yes," she said finally, "but I'm paying for dinner. I'm choosing the restaurant. And if you lie to me again about anything, no matter how small, we're done. No second chances." "Understood completely," Marcus said. They stood close but not quite touching. Two people broken by betrayal learning to believe in the possibility of healing. "Marcus," Scarlett said quietly, "thank you for passing the real test, the one where you admitted you failed." "Turns out the only way to truly conquer someone is to surrender first," Marcus said. "Is that what this is?" Scarlett asked. "Surrender?" "No," Marcus said. "This is choosing to be brave enough to lose everything if that's what honesty requires." Scarlett kissed him then. Not the chaste peck from weeks ago, but something real, deep and desperate and full of everything she couldn't put into words. When they finally broke apart, Marcus rested his forehead against hers. "I won't let you down again." "You probably will," Scarlett said honestly. "You're human. But if you're honest about it when you do, we'll figure it out together." "I promise I will be," Marcus said. "No more promises, remember?" Scarlett said with a slight smile. "Just actions." "Right," Marcus agreed. "Just actions." Epilogue. 1 year later. The wedding wasn't what anyone had expected, which was exactly the point. They held it in Golden Gate Park near the old carousel on a Tuesday afternoon when most people were at work. The location was deliberate, public, unpretentious, real. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a dress absolutely covered in unicorns because she'd insisted, and neither Marcus nor Scarlett could deny her anything. She took her job incredibly seriously, dropping petals with surgical focus and precision. Victoria sat in the front row next to Marcus's father, who'd flown in from Seattle. She was crying quietly, having spent the past year in intensive therapy, learning how to let go of control. She'd learned, slowly and painfully, that love meant trusting people to make their own choices. Patricia, the board member, officiated the ceremony. She'd gotten ordained online specifically for this occasion. She kept the ceremony refreshingly short. "Marriage is not conquest," Patricia said to the small gathered group. "It's two people choosing every single day to be brave enough to be fully seen, to be completely known, to be imperfect together and call that enough." Marcus stood in a simple gray suit, his eyes never leaving Scarlett as she walked toward him down the grass aisle. No one gave her away because she'd chosen this completely for herself. She wore white, but nothing traditional. Something vintage she'd found in a Mission District shop. Delicate lace and silk that was completely her own style. Her hair was down and natural. She wore no makeup because she didn't need armor anymore. When she reached Marcus, he whispered so only she could hear, "You're absolutely sure about this?" "I'm terrified," Scarlett whispered back. "But yes, I'm sure." They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Nothing borrowed from books or tradition. Just truth. Marcus spoke first. "I promise to tell you the truth, even when it's ugly, even when I'm scared of how you'll react." Scarlett. "I promise to trust you, even when it's hard, even when fear tells me to run and protect myself." Marcus. "I promise to show up consistently. For you, for Emma, for whatever family we build together." Scarlett. "I promise to see you clearly. Not who you were before we met. Not who you tried to become, but who you actually are. Flawed and honest and brave enough to love me anyway." They exchanged simple bands, nothing ostentatious. Then they kissed, and Emma cheered so loudly that tourists walking by stopped to watch and applaud spontaneously. At the reception, which was really just a picnic in the park with pizza and champagne, and Emma's insistent choice of ice cream cake, Marcus pulled Scarlett aside briefly. "I have something for you," he said, producing an envelope. Inside was the promised letter of recommendation from Victoria. Underneath it was a job offer from UC Berkeley. "You got the position," Scarlett said, genuinely happy for him. We got positions, Marcus corrected. I told them I wouldn't accept unless they hired you as well. As my research partner. The ethics of AI and human connection as a joint project. Scarlett stared at her name on the official offer letter. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, Marcus said simply. Because the most interesting research I've ever done has been figuring out how to actually love you. That's incredibly cheesy, Scarlett said, laughing. Emma helped me write it, Marcus admitted. They laughed together, and Emma ran over demanding cake immediately, and Victoria took photos for her office, and somewhere in all that chaotic joy, Scarlett realized something important. She'd spent 2 years systematically testing men, looking for one who could pass her impossible standards. But the real test had never been about them. It had been about her. Whether she was brave enough to trust again, to be vulnerable, to risk being hurt for the genuine chance of being happy. She'd failed that test 47 times. But on attempt 48, with a janitor who freely admitted his failures, a mother who'd learned to let go, and a little girl who'd taught her that love doesn't have to be perfect to be completely real. She'd finally passed. Final scene. Late that night, after all the guests had left and Emma was asleep in the car, Marcus and Scarlett sat together on their apartment steps. They'd found a modest 2-bedroom place in the Sunset District, close to the Berkeley campus. It wasn't fancy, but it was entirely theirs. Do you ever think about how all of this started? Scarlett asked, her head resting on his shoulder. All the time, Marcus admitted. Do you regret it? The original deal with my mother? I regret the lying, Marcus said honestly. But I don't regret meeting you. Even manipulated, even orchestrated as a setup, the feelings that developed were completely real. Do you think we would have ever met without her interference? Scarlett wondered. Probably not, Marcus admitted. You would have kept systematically destroying suitors. I would have kept pushing a mop at night and avoiding human connection. So maybe manipulation can lead to something genuine? Scarlett mused. Maybe, Marcus agreed. Or maybe we'll spend the rest of our lives trying to figure that question out. Good thing we have the rest of our lives to work on it, Scarlett said. Good thing, Marcus echoed. They sat in comfortable silence as fog rolled in off the ocean. The city was settling into its nighttime rhythm around them. Marcus? Yeah? Our research project title, Scarlett said thoughtfully. Let's change it to something better. What do you want to call it? The ethics of surrender, Scarlett said. Marcus smiled. That's perfect. Let's go conquer that research together. Together? Scarlett asked. Always together, Marcus promised. They went inside, closing the door on the fog and the night and their complicated past. They walked into a future they would build together, one day at a time. Imperfect, honest, and gloriously real. She wasn't unconquerable after all. She just needed someone brave enough to admit he was conquerable too. If this story touched you in any way, if Marcus and Scarlett's journey resonated with something in your own life, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments below. Did the ending satisfy you? What did you think about the deal Victoria made? Your engagement helps this channel grow and allows me to bring you more stories like this one. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.